Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Peter Jennings, and I go by CSURAM88 across the daily fantasy industry. And I'm back again at FantasyLabs doing another lineup review. You've been following along with a series I've been reviewing every round of the DraftKings $1 Million World Golf Championship. Just a quick review. Basically, it's going alongside the FedEx Cup. Started with 125 entrants, down to 100, down to 70, and then 70 down to 30. So the interesting thing is this one was the hardest one to advance in yet. Basically, a little under half have been advanced in this round, where as in rounds past, 70 out of 100 made it, and 100 out of 125 made it. So I had 3 entries, was fortunate enough to get 2 through, where all the big money is relative to the rest of the prize pool in the final round. So I'll review my lineups here and also take a look at just some of the top lineups and ownership overall. So again, I treated this similar to a 50-50, but with no cut. I also was shooting for a lot of upside. So my first team, which ended up being my main cash game team, which was a fade of Rory, which I'll talk about here in a second. But I like this team quite a bit. I thought it had a ton of balance as a really long hitting team, and I like the birdie upside of this group. So Brooks Koepka, even with a marginal finish in terms of his place, he still ended up with a good amount of DK points. He made 3 eagles. Really charged at the end, was in a bad position going into Sunday, and wasn't even that hot until the very end of his round. So Koepka really came through for me with 3 eagles, a birdie streak, and 13 birdies, which was nice, with 83 fantasy points. He was my favorite play probably overall. I had him in all the lineups. I had him and Ryan Palmer as my 2 favorite plays. Next guy I took was Matsuyama, who I thought was perfect for this format. He's been hot and cold this year. I think he's one of the elite players on tour. Was hurt for a little bit with his hip. I definitely think we'll see him win a major at some point. I think he's one of the best, 10, 15 golfers in the world, maybe even a little higher, honestly. And with DraftKings, he's a great birdie maker, which is huge. He finished higher than Koepka in terms of he was more under par than Koepka, but had less points. Didn't make any eagles on this round, which was unfortunate, but definitely played really well. Made a lot of birdies, which was nice, and had a birdie streak. Could have played better on Sunday, but pretty pleased with Matsuyama overall as a play. Ryan Palmer was 60% owned here, most heavily owned player in this field, was cheap. He was kind of the chalk cheap play. I played him on all three teams, and really liked him quite a bit. You can see 60% owned. I talked about it on the model preview and on the podcast with Colin that he was basically a must play in cash, so I went all in on him. Next guy I have was Adam Scott. Scott had a really nice round, had a bunch of birdies, got in some nice streaks. I think his ball striking is right up there with anyone in the game, probably the best in the game at this point, honestly. It's just really all about the putter for him, but liked him as my expensive guy. It allowed me to have Matsuyama, Koepka, and Watson, so I liked him quite a bit. Then went with Justin Thomas, who's a nice birdie maker as well, also capable of making eagles. Had a pretty good round, shot 5 under, and I thought he was a pretty nice play at 11%. Didn't go. I think this is my only team with Justin Thomas on it, but do like him just in general going forward. I think he's one of the guys that might be the final spot on the Ryder Cup as well. And then finally, Bubba Watson, who is probably the biggest favorite to be the last Ryder Cup spot. Played him as a distance course and, going for the eagles and birdies, and Bubba had a solid round. So that was that team. It was balanced. Only team I faded Rory on. I had him on 2 of 3. Originally, I only had Rory on 1 of 3, but got nervous at the end and put him on a team. So here's the Rory team. Talked about Koepka and Matsuyama. I had Koepka on all 3, Matsuyama on 2 of 3. Rory, who I thought was the chalkest option of the expensive guys. I liked him more than DJ and Day. DJ ended up winning the tournament. Day ended up withdrawing, so I guess it could have been worse, but not a great tournament for Rory. No eagles, which is surprising, and just never really got it going, especially after Thursday's round. Went with Kevin Na, who was the 3rd highest owned player. He had a pretty nice round. For a pretty nice couple rounds to start the weekend. Was looking like a really great play. To start the week, and then faltered during the weekend. And normally I wouldn't love him in this spot, but he was one of the cheap guys that I thought opened up a lot of other plays. I preferred Palmer to him, but with this lineup to get Rory, I went with Kevin Na and Palmer. There's Palmer again. And then finally, I went with Schwartzel, who ended up being 24% owned. I loved him. Came through huge on the weekend. I thought this team didn't really have a chance to make it, but Schwartzel came through with a 64 on Sunday, which got me there. And then finally, the team that busted, I went with Finau, which was a just devastating mistake. Originally, before I went with this team to Rory, I had a JB Holmes team who I really liked. And I went down to Finau, or I went up to Finau. I think I unlocked an extra 100. Koepka, Rory talked about them. Palmer talked about him, and then Bubba Watson. And then the guy I actually liked quite a bit who didn't do well was Hudson Swafford. I wanted to put him on a team. I preferred Ryan Palmer for sure over Swafford at a cheaper price. But I really liked Swafford in this spot. Bummed he's not around for the next round, but Swafford's a guy that I'll definitely have exposure to going forward, and is a guy that I'm long on in general for DFS golf. So that was my team. Bushler 22000C took it down with Dustin Johnson at 12%, Russell Knox, Brooks Koepka, Kuchar, who didn't fit the course fit in terms of distance, but has done really well in die courses, so I like that play. Schwartzel, and then Justin Thomas. Notorious, who I'm a huge fan of, great guy, great DFS player. Also had a really nice team here with Duffner and DJ, Koepka, Palmer, and Adam Scott. You can just see ownerships here. Kuno88, who I think is one of the best golf guys. Was fortunate to meet him this weekend at the Nashville DraftKings and Road Grinders party, which was a great time. He did have exposure to DJ on this team with Rory, punting with Castro, which turned out to be a very, very sharp play. So those are some of the top teams. You guys can kind of see ownership throughout this. I'll be doing a lineup review of this for the final round, which is essentially 2 weeks from now. And I hope you guys had a great golf season. It's kind of winding down for a little bit now, but things will be ramping back up. And if you are looking to play golf this week, it's a great Euro slate, so take advantage of that as well. Hope this was helpful, and as always, looking to see more Fantasy Lab subscribers at the top of the leaderboard.